Hello and welcome to Under the Lights, brought to you by Sportology TV with myself, Ali Drew, and my co-host, Ouney. On the last episode, we were joined by the now British light heavyweight champion, Shakhan Pitters, and the fountain of knowledge and former world champion, Barry Jones.
This week, guys, we have a special treat in store for you guys. We've got one of the most emerging trainers in the world, somebody who's well known for his time with Tyson Fury. Somebody who's a bloody great pundit as well, who does a good job in front of the cameras as a media man, but training Billy Joe Saunders, Josh Taylor, and Shabazz Masood at this present time. None other than I'd call him a fountain of knowledge as well. Ben Davison. Ben, how you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. You?
I'm good. The hair's still intact. You're looking good, mate. Everyone else is looking awful in this time, but you seem to be pulling it off. How's things?
Right. The homeless look I go for.
Ben, I just want to start to ask you, basically, the return of boxing, obviously it's all been behind closed doors. There's been quite a few shows, actually. What's your thoughts on it all? What's your take on the behind closed doors shows that have been?
Do you know what? I keep thinking to myself, I haven't yet seen an outstanding performance from anybody yet. And to be honest with you, Joshy's boxing September the 26th, defending his titles, his IBF title and his WBA title. And Yard is boxing 2 weeks before, so I'm going to try and go to that show, try and have a feel for the atmosphere, and just see what it's like, really, because as it stands at the minute, I can't really give any advice to the lads. I can't say this is what it's like, this is what it feels like, this is how it's going to be when you walk out without a crowd. I can't say that because I don't know at the minute. And it's okay saying, if you've done it as the amateurs and this and that, but it's different, walking out when to go backwards, it's like when you first get a bike. Any bike's good, but then you start riding a good bike and then you want a better bike, and it's the same with a car, and it's the same when you start walking out in front of sold out arenas that are screaming your name, and then all of a sudden you've got to go back to an empty hall. It can have an effect, and like I say, I've not yet seen an outstanding performance, so I would like to go have a look, have a feel for what one of these shows are like, and see if I can take anything positive away from it to be able to help us on the night.
Just talking about fights behind closed doors, just the other week, Dillian Whyte for Alexander Povetkin. People will say it was a shock loss, but Alexander Povetkin's actually a great fighter, so it was a good fight going into it anyway. He did lose that fight with a devastating knockout. Just talk to me about that fight, Ben. What did you see from Dillian in that fight, and what did you see from Povetkin in that fight?
Povetkin was what Povetkin is, really, and I've done a couple of bits with TalkSport before the fight, just saying that if Dillian goes about the job in the right way, I'd expect him to be the favourite. But the moment it becomes mid to short range, I would say that it probably becomes a 50-50, and I think that's what we saw. And Dillian landed first, so to speak, but it was Povetkin who had the more devastating effect when he did land. And Dillian's got a problem of when he's unsure, his what I call defensive eyes are not fantastic, and he sort of drops straight down into a shell, and that's why Povetkin was able to come round to the body, which the attack started off as, before he switched it up to come up top. And I think that if you look back at problems that Dillian's had, Anthony Joshua stopped him with an uppercut, Oscar Rivers dropped him with an uppercut, and now Povetkin's stopped him with an uppercut. I think that that's sort of proving to be a problem, but I've got to also say that I've got huge respect for the way that he's dealt with the loss. He's got straight back to work, no complaints, not moaned over anything, not made excuses. He's looking to get straight back to work and put it right, so I can only respect that, to be honest.
What do you think is going to happen in the rematch? What do you think is going to be a different result?
A worrying thing for me is when it wasn't like he got buzzed, like he got heavily dropped and knocked out, and concussion can take a while to recover from. So if he starts sparring too soon, and they say that concussion's like a scab and it needs time to heal. But if you keep picking it, it never really heals. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see how he deals with that. But I think if he gets a little, I know he's eager to put it right, but I think a bit more time probably would suit the situation. But like I say, I can only respect that he wants to get back in there and put it right, and he's not made a million excuses.
Because are they saying it's November time for the rematch? Is that when he's wanting it?
I think
that's what I'm hearing. Late November, yeah.
Actually, just talking about Dillian, do you feel like at times in fights, just you spoke about the Rivas fight there, you spoke about fights before, and that even the Chisora fight, that he's a bit too open. He does get hit a lot more than maybe fighters in that division, in the top 5 to 7 fighters. Do you feel like he is a lot more open?
A lot more open's probably not the word that I would look for. I would just say a little bit more leaky.
Okay.
So it's not like there's a huge target and he makes big obvious mistakes, but there's a few small mistakes. Like, it's not a coincidence that Joshua, Rivas and Povetkin all landed the uppercut that ended up having an effect. So, you know, it's definitely something there that needs to be looked at. But like I say, all I can say is that I can only admire that he recognises that there's areas to improve on. And he's looking to do that without excuses, and that's a sign of someone that will come back bigger and better.
Josh, let's talk about Josh Taylor now. Obviously, September 26th, his fight. In training now, how is it going? How are you finding the sort of, obviously back to normal training, but how is it going?
Yeah, it's good. You know, the more time that you get with someone, the better, of course, especially when it's someone who's had a lot of success because they've had success doing what they're doing. So as a trainer, when you're looking to make changes, because you can always improve. So when you're looking to make changes and looking to work on things and make adjustments, someone that's had that amount of success, it can sometimes take longer with. So the more time that you get, the better. But really seeing some Josh taking certain things on board and making some adjustments and starting to make things become habitual as opposed to really having to think about it. And that will come with more time, where it just becomes his second nature to do the things that we're working on.
So in a way, is it a good thing that, obviously it's not a good thing that the lockdown happened, but the fight was meant to happen in May, but for you, do you see it as a benefit that actually you've had a bit more time together to prep?
Probably, yeah, especially with the situation where before the lockdown, it looked like Billy Joe and Josh was going to be on the same day, which was obviously, you know, definitely not ideal. But yeah, I'd say that it's worked out nicely that we're getting to spend more time and work on things and just make those habits become instinctual, like I say.
Let's talk about his opponent. Obviously, he's got to go through this fight to move on. But have you seen much of him? Have you seen much of Consung? Is it someone that, because most of the fighters leave it to the trainer to do this part of the studying. So what have you made of him as a fighter?
I think he's a good fighter. I think he's a dangerous fighter. He can clearly really whack. You know, Kondo went 12 rounds with Lipinets, never been stopped, never been dropped, just got starfished by him. So he can clearly whack, and I think he's a dangerous opponent. I think that especially the behind closed doors thing, where he's probably not boxed in front of big crowds before, and you know, going into a big arena of mad Scotsmen screaming for his opponent and telling him going mad, he's, you know, could have had a negative impact on him, but that's not going to be there now. So, you know, that could work in his favour, but I definitely fancy Josh to be able to go about the job in the right way and get the job done in good fashion. And, you know, I think that should then lead to hopefully the Ramirez-Taylor fight.
Well, what did you make of Ramirez's fight with Victor Postol the other day?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people giving Ramirez some criticism, and I actually said before that I feel like this fight next for Josh is probably a more difficult fight than the Ramirez fight. I just feel stylistically that the Ramirez fight really, really suits Josh. And I also felt that Postal stylistically probably didn't suit Ramirez. So you probably didn't see the best Ramirez there. And stylistically, it was probably a difficult fight for him, and it proved to be so. But Postal's a quality fighter, and people shouldn't forget that and underestimate him. So for Ramirez to come through that in the first place, you know, I had my doubts that he may not come through that fight, and he did. So, you know, I think that at this level, they're all top fighters, so there is no easy fights. But I just feel like stylistically, Ramirez is the right style for Josh.
And there is a certain picture I put up there for yourself, Ben. Your fight to Billy Joe Saunders has been linked to this fight for a long time. I know sort of Billy pulled out at one point, but he's back in the running from what I see. Reports are that it's either Callum Smith or your fight to Billy Joe. Any latest in regards to that? Can you give us any news?
No, no news there. What I will say is Billy Joe didn't pull himself out of a fight. He just basically said that he's not going to take the fight on the short notice that they were planning. Seemed like they were planning to do, and with the big pay cuts that they were talking about. So, but there's no news there. You know what I know, and that's usually how it is, especially with the big fights. They don't like to let you know well in advance, because then the fight ends up being leaked and information being leaked, etc. So it's pretty much one of them. A day or two before the public know is when the team will know.
Just talking about Billy Joe, how frustrating has it been for yourself watching him? Because I know you've just linked up with Billy Joe quite recently, but how frustrating has it been that his last significant win was a good few years ago against David Lemieux, and really it's been a very stop-start sort of career for him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's been difficult to gain momentum for Billy Joe. Stylistically, he's not the type of fighter that if you was a coach of another fighter, you'd point out and say, there's a fight for you, you know. Stylistically, he's not really ideal for anybody. And he's been a world champion for 5 years now, so he wants his opportunity, and has been since then been craving an opportunity to go up against the best, who at the time was Golovkin, and now obviously is standing out that people seem to think that it's Canelo. So that's what he's hungry for. That's sort of where his passion is. You see a lot of fighters that when they win a world title, the motivation sort of can dip, or they feel like they've achieved their goals now. And his next goal has been to fight who's perceived to be the best in the division, and he's struggled to get that Golovkin fight, and he seems to be struggling to get that Canelo fight. So that can be frustrating, but you just got to keep plodding away and hope that you'll get there, and I'm sure eventually you will.
Do you think are you hopeful that the fight is going to be made before the end of the year?
I don't.
Or do you think that with no crowds, probably not?
It's difficult, isn't it? I'm not sure. I mean, it depends on the broadcasters, what they view the fight being worth. Thanks, mate. What they view the fight being worth, and how they see them getting that money back. So, because at the end of the day, boxing is a business, and unfortunately, as participants of the sport and as coaches and as fans, you're not thinking so much on that level. You're thinking more about what you want and what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it. So it's difficult, but I think that Billy Joe can just keep himself in shape, and if he gets the call, hopefully be as ready as possible, and then be prepared to go in there and do what he needs to do, which I certainly feel he can do.
What's the latest with Billy Joe's suspension? Is he out of that now?
Yeah, that's all sorted. He sorted that out with the board a little while back, so that's all.
So he's good to go now.
Yeah.
Just want to talk about another fighter of yours, Shabazz Masood, super bantamweight, whichever way you want to see. He's quite young in his professional career. But what made you sort of team up with him? What made him stick out? Because I'm sure you get a lot of fighters that come to you that want to train you. Necessarily, that doesn't always be the case. But what was special about Shabazz?
Stylistically, I think he's a great fighter, and obviously he works with Asgi as well, Asgater.
Yeah.
And Shabazz's personality, I saw a few things in the gym that just made me say, you know what, I believe that he's got the skill set as long as he keeps improving. But I feel like he's got the right mindset and just needs guiding along the right tracks. And he's sort of, he'd been inactive for a little while. and he had he had some issues going on in and around his boxing, and we spoke and decided that we'd try and do something together, and along with Vasyl, and that's the plan. So we're hoping to get him out late October on a Frank Warren show. He's mandatory for the English title, so that'll be the next step for Shabazz, hopefully.
Just want to talk to you about Fury Wilder 3. We're hoping or hearing that it's going to be potentially end of the year. Do you think that that's going to happen, or do you think that maybe Wilder's trying to drag it out a bit? What do you think's happening with that?
I don't really know. Again, it probably boils down to the broadcasters and the promoters and how they feel that they can generate that money back that it's going to cost. So, I mean, I can't see. For me now, obviously, I'm a little bit more distant from it than I was. So I can't really. I'm not keeping as much of an eye on things, and I couldn't tell you what sort of mindset that Wilder are being going into that fight. For him to be looking to try and hold off and push the fight back would just, wouldn't make sense to me. I'd imagine that he would just have the mindset of, I've got to go in and do what I've got to do and try my best and give it my all. What will be, because too much thinking is probably not going to, and delaying it, he's not going to get any younger. Tyson's only going to get better and keep improving. So I think he's just got to go in there and take a chance. And so I don't think that Wilder would be trying to push the date back. That would be madness to me. I think that if anybody would try to push it back, it would be the promoters and the broadcasters, just because they wouldn't feel like it would be the right time to generate that money back. But having said that, I've heard that there's potentially some small crowds coming in, and if they can get the right audience and the right people to purchase tickets with the right target audience at the right cost, then maybe they'll be able to do something there that generate the same sort of money that they would with more people at a lesser ticket price. So I don't know. I'm just bouncing ideas. I'm not saying that that's anything that I know. I'm just having a wild thought. So yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I think it's all up in the air still at the minute with the big fights and how the best to get them done. And because, like I say, unfortunately, at the end of the day, it is a business, isn't it?
Ben, do you feel like he beats everyone? Do you feel like, because there's a potential fight with Anthony Joshua in 2021, maybe even if Dillian White beats Povetkin, there could be that fight happening for the WBC mandatory. Do you feel like Tyson Fury beats everyone in that division?
Yeah, I do. I just believe that he's more versatile. He's a better boxer. He can fight up and close. He's big. He's strong. Before he was at the very, very early part of his career, he was perceived to be a fighter, like a big, strong man. And, we saw him then turn into a bit more of a boxer. And through the comeback, it was always going to take time for him to recover from that weight loss. And we saw him put on some boxing masterclasses and, but he was still finding his feet and getting his balance between his mental health, his training and, preparing for a fight and the weight loss and all the rest of it, still trying to find the balance with that. And I feel like now he needed a little bit of a rest, and he got that rest from September through to the October, through to the February for the second Wilder fight. And I think that little bit more time for him to recover and only get stronger again at the weight, just with time, I just see him improving at the minute. So, yeah, I think he's a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, the heavyweight division is a dangerous division. One shot can change it all in any weight, but especially the heavyweight division. But barring that, I don't see anybody beating Tyson.
And before we let you go, I need to just ask you about two fights happening in the States that have got the attention of the fight fans. Firstly, Errol Spence Jr. returns back after a long time out from his car crash. He returns against Danny Garcia. How do you see that one playing out?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting fight, but I think that the size and strength of Errol Spence and the way that Danny Garcia is very wide with his shots, he opens his shoulders out of his shots, with Errol Spence having quite more of a compact type guard, and when the distance is short, he gets his head right underneath the chin of his opponent to keep them tall to work away. I think that he'll be getting on, landing shots inside Garcia's wide shots and potentially will probably stop Danny Garcia, in my opinion.
And the final one is Vasyl Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez. Talk to me about that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I'm the world's biggest Lomachenko fan.
I know you are.
And I think that he's just class. But I also, you know, I've met Teofimo, and he's the biggest small man you've ever seen. He's got a back on him like a silverback. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see. I think that he's certainly a threat to Lomachenko. How Lomachenko deals with the size, but stylistically, it'd be an interesting one. Does Teofimo try the shoulder roll? With the shoulder roll, I think it'd just be very easy for Lomachenko to keep stepping around him. So stylistically, it's going to be an interesting one. Size-wise, it's an interesting one. I think that I wouldn't be that surprised if Teofimo at times is able to push Lomachenko back, but I also wouldn't be overly surprised if Lomachenko just dominated. So it really is an interesting one, and certainly one that I'm looking forward to. It's probably the fight that I'm most looking forward to coming up.
Ben, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to hear all your wisdom, boxing knowledge. Thank you.
No problem. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And good luck to your guys. Good luck to Josh Taylor on September 26th. And hopefully we'll hear some news back about Billy Joe and Shabazz and everyone else that you
and you missed out when you said about the fights. You missed out Leo Delanja.
Oh, mate, I'm so sorry. Ben, you've just dropped me into it. Mate, he's gonna hit me next time he sees me at a press conference. Sorry, mate. But yeah, Ben, thank you very much. You've been a star. And
no problem.
Take care.
Thank you.
So great to have Ben Davison joining us for this week's episode of Under the Lights. Make sure you stay tuned. We have lots more coming up, loads more special guests. Make sure you're subscribed and you hit that bell button. See you next time.